if you're going to compare right now how a Warrior fan feels about their chances to win a title next year versus how a Giants fan felt about their chances to win the title at the beginning of this year, how would you compare those two?
The Warriors fan feels like they have a much better chance than the Giants fan did in mid-March, even late April, even mid-May. The Giants fan at 17-23, a quarter of the way into the year, wouldn't have looked at that and thought, yeah, we got a good chance. Warrior fan looks at it right now with all the questions he laid out. Will Poole and Kuminga be here? Who do they take at 19? And all the rest of the questions. Can Jordan and Draymond get along? We might have beaten that one into the ground. We're going to find out in the coming days and weeks if they can or if they even get to. But right now, a Warrior fan looks at their chances not knowing the answers to a lot of questions, and you still feel pretty good about your chances. But I think right now, Giants fan would feel as good, if not better. Right now, in this moment, on this day, first day of summer, June 21st, 2023, you've won 9 in a row. You're the wild card leader. The youth movement has arrived, and people are chanting, "Let's go Giants," after walk-off wins at home.
In June, yeah.
The Dodgers are injured. The Padres are overrated, and the Diamondbacks might as well play in Missouri, the show me state. Shout out Guru. It's his bit, because I'm not believing in Arizona. It feels more and more like the Giants fans, among me, being maybe the diehardiest of them all, we feel like the Giants have a great chance to win the title now. I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah, I guess the point is I try to remind myself this at the beginning of every season, luckily because we live here where I can't even remember, quite frankly, the last time one of these teams went into a year feeling the way the Kansas City Royals or even the Oakland A's did at the beginning of this year, where it's like, this is not, there's optimism and there's pessimism. There's years where you're a favorite, there's years where you're not. But never seemingly in the last 20, 30 years has there been a year where you went in and you're just like, look, we're not even here to compete right now.
Interesting.
We're just doing something else.
I think first year of Shanahan was that year.
Okay.
Because you look at that roster, and we can go back and pull up some of the names. They had nobody. They had absolutely no talent outside of Joe Staley.
And you're searching for a quarterback. And if you're searching for a quarterback, you're not in the discussion.
New head coach, no quarterback, and a roster that was completely devoid of much talent. And you open up the year 0-10. That felt like the last time the Niners were in that spot. The Giants, even like after 10, 12, and 14, 16, they were in the playoffs. And there were years where they could have and should have been, right in there. So you'd have to go back to probably 2007 or 8, the post-Barry, pre-Buster couple of years where it didn't feel like they had much going on.
Yeah, so we're taking calls on that. What caught your attention the most over the last 3 weeks with the Giants? 888-957-9570 is the number, but here's sort of what I'm getting at. What's happening with the Giants right now is the most special stuff in sports. And all we got to do is go back even just a year with the Warriors to realize it. Or go back to the year, whatever it was, year 3 or year 4, with Kyle Shanahan, as you just mentioned, where the 49ers ended up in the Super Bowl. I remember both sports radio stations in town did the whole, your preseason predictions, and what's everybody doing? And the best I could find was someone thought the 49ers were going to go 6-10. And I got made fun of, as I often do, for being Captain Positive, because I went out there and said something stupid, like I think the Niners could surprise you and go 10-6 this year. Something stupid.
Captain Positive again.
10-6.
Captain Saving Niner.
Yeah, they went 13-3 and ended up in the Super Bowl. So the Warriors last year, the parade, which, by the way, was that a year ago today?
Yesterday.
Okay, a year ago yesterday. And I know you remember one of the things we talked about that day, which was of all 4 championships, where did this one rank? Most people said second because there's nothing like your first time. But what made last year so special was what? It was a surprise.
Yeah, unexpected.
Sports are so much better when you don't see them coming. It's one of the things I've criticized with baseball for years in a team like the New York Yankees. It's like, if you're going to just spend $300 million and everyone else is going to spend $50 and then you win, what did you really achieve? There's a little bit too much of that in baseball where it feels like Billy Madison, where an adult is playing dodgeball with kindergartners. It feels like that a little bit too much. But when you get this, when you get something where let's be honest, Giants fans, we started the year off livid. We were one of two emotions. We were mad or we were bored or maybe both. And now, 2 months later, you're 41-32. You got the second best record in the entire National League. You're second in the National League in run differential. You're on an unbelievable streak. They win tonight, and they have the longest streak in 20 years for San Francisco Giants baseball. And no wonder people are chanting at the ballpark on the way out. Because if this goes somewhere, it was unexpected. And that is, for me, that's the best stuff that can happen to a sports fan.
Yes, especially when it happens at this point in the year, because then you continue to get this enthusiasm and you get the adrenaline built up about this team. And let's be fair about where we are in the sports calendar right now on June 21st. Even if the Warriors would have gone deeper in the playoffs, we still are beyond the end of the NBA discussion. The Nuggets parade was about 10 days ago, so we're not even thinking NBA until the draft tomorrow when we go live from Chase Center. And then after that, we do have free agency. But NBA-wise, in terms of the heat on June 21st, it's about a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. Tomorrow it ramps back up, and then in subsequent days. But on this day, with the draft, them picking at 19, it's a 2, I think, on the topic thermometer. And the 49ers right now are a 1
it's dormant.
On a scale of 1 to 10. And, when we get to August, they'll be a 7 or an 8. And then you get to September, and they're a 9 or a 10 every single day. And we know that. But right now is the Giants' time to shine, and shine they are.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about the word sustainability so much today. Rich Aurelia started it this morning with Bonte and Joe, questioning the sustainability of the way the Giants are going about their pitching.
It's hard to sustain the way they're doing things now for the long term, because if you keep bringing in Beck to throw 4 or 5 innings, or Manaea to throw 4 or 5 innings, or whoever else wins to throw 4 or 5 innings, well, but then that affects your bullpen, right? So then those guys got to come in sooner and eat up more innings. So my concern isn't today. My concern is, what does that bullpen and the rotation look like going into August?
So I think this is a really good point, and I think this is an interesting point. And so there are two thoughts going on in my head with regard to the word sustainability. One of the reasons I'm so excited about this run right now with the Giants is not because it's just, they're playing well, they're winning games, and there are some young guys. Part of it is the young guys, because they sort of are attached to my point. Doesn't it feel right now like what the Giants are doing, and wasn't this always the goal, what they're doing right now could last well beyond this year?
Absolutely.
Does it not feel that way?
It does, and you and I played this game a couple of weeks ago where we went through the roster and looked at who is under team control, who are core guys, and we came up with 12 or 13, and I don't think we yet were counting the likes of Keaton Wynn. We might have counted Luis Matos because he hadn't been here yet, but we counted him,
see him coming.
Kyle Harrison, and we counted more than a dozen players upon whom you can bank, not only now, but in the future. And now these kids are playing well enough to where it becomes a now discussion. It's not just, boy, when they all get experience, next year is going to be fun.
Right. Like you can start to sprinkle in free agents. That's fine. But Lamont Wade's not going anywhere. Estrada's not going anywhere. Schmidt, Matos, Bailey, Webb, Doval, if Harrison comes up.
Yaz, Estrada.
Yeah, exactly. None of them are going. So that is incredibly exciting to me. However, the other point that Rich Aurelia brings up, I wonder, and I wish we could have Farhan back on again today to ask him this question. Well, we bring up the deadline a lot, and people go, okay, well, the deadline is kind of like Steiny's point today. Well, that's 6 weeks away. What are we talking about that now for? Why do you have to wait? Why do you have to wait? If I'm the Giants, I'm going to get real interested real fast in calling some of these teams who have pitchers who are going to be available and say, look, let's talk about this right now. They'll say, it might cost you a little more. My answer, that's fine. Let's talk about this now. Think about how you beat people in life, right? How do you get an A boarding pass on Southwest.
You check in 24 hours exactly ahead of time.
And in fact, sometimes that doesn't even work because you got the people that get the auto boarding pass that gets lined up. But you beat people to the punch by showing up early. How do you make sure you get the bobblehead when it's bobblehead night and the first 10,000 are getting bobbles?
You know somebody in the front office.
Okay, that's a good point.
And you have them bring it to your job. You get there early, Mark.
I did.
Sorry, I didn't mean to joke around. Because this is a good point you're making.
We sat there in the press box, and they brought him to us. That's true. That's true. But
my son home from college just got a box. I'm like, oh, my God, I remember when I got you this one.
Oh, right.
There's a John Miller one in there. There's all kinds of bobbleheads.
I love that. Exactly. But that's
to your point.
Just get there first.
Yeah.
Just get there first.
And also, if you do that, you would get an additional 6 to 8 starts from this guy. So is it really costing you more if you're getting more bang for your prospect buck?
Well, look, it's not a name that resonates. I guarantee you 99% of our audience has never even heard of the guy. But we brought this up. This ended up coming up on the crossover earlier. Just doing some digging in starting pitchers who are available right now. Eduardo Rodriguez, who has playoff experience. He's left-handed. He's with the Detroit Tigers, who are 9 games under 500. But he's hurt right now. He's not going to be back for another month. I have an idea. Get him now. Get him now.
And I would love
Why
to.
not?
Let's file this away for Doc Pandia when he joins us. And maybe
I love this.
Maybe I'll reach out to him directly and ask him about how you recover from a ruptured A4 pulley in your finger, because this is an injury. I mentioned it earlier. I had never heard of this injury, but doing the research, the pulley attaches the tendon to the bone. Sounds like it's pretty important for a pitcher who needs to grip.
Right, but it's also a finger. It's not his arm. It's not his elbow. It's not a ligament.
Right, but it's the thing that allows you to grip the ball. And pitching is about grip as much as it is about arm and elbow and shoulder.
Right, but it will heal is what I'm saying. It's not like one of those mysterious, I had a twinge in my shoulder, my back.
My neck and my back.
Right, exactly. So I just think what Rich Aurelia is saying is true. The San Francisco Giants are having all these come-from-behind wins, which tells me their starting pitchers are falling behind. And so that's great that they can come back, and it's great that they've won 9 in a row. But I was in the building last night, and I can tell you firsthand, and not that you needed to be there last night, you could probably feel this on TV too, there is not a lot of confidence in Anthony DeSclafani when he's facing Tatis, Machado, Soto, and Bogarts all lined up in a row. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. It's not terrifying when Logan Webb is doing it. When Cobb is healthy, it's not terrifying. But they're going to need more starting pitchers, and I wonder, why do you got to wait? Why do you got to wait till July 28th?
Well, you don't.
Okay.
I mean, you don't. And
then I would be a proponent of doing something now.
Yeah, and I think that the Giants would be as well, but it kind of defeats the purpose to bring in Eduardo Rodriguez if he can't pitch until July 28th anyway. Now, I know the price for him might be a little bit lower now than it will be when he gets healthy, assuming he's able to pitch again in 4 weeks. The estimates are late July, early August, so right about the deadline. You may not actually get him to pitch before the deadline, so would it really benefit you to get this particular player right now?
I mean, for those of you who are deeper Giants fans, you know that this is a thing that they've done. He never ended up pitching for the Giants, but they went out. Remember, I was all excited last year about Matthew Boyd. I thought Matthew Boyd.
Keep your eyes on Matthew Boyd.
And then they traded him.
Yeah,
they traded him, and they got prospects for the guy, and he never pitched for the Giants.
And according to Lucas in the back, they got served on that trade.
You don't know yet because the prospects they got, we don't know what they're going to turn into. But Boyd is racking up some stuff right now. Is the Mariners? Is he with Seattle, Lucas? Is that where Boyd went? Boyd and Casali? Did they go to Seattle, I think? I can't remember where they went.
He's with the Tigers now.
Yeah,
that's where the trade happened.
Now, yeah.
Tigers signed him to a 1-year, $10 million deal.
Well, that's where he was before. He used to be with the Tigers when the Giants signed him. And they thought he's going to get healthy midseason, and he'll be good for us. And then by the time he was healthy, the Giants were out of it, and they dealt him. So
the Giants got Michael Streifler.
Yes.
And Andy Thomas.
Very exciting young players.
You're so
I don't know who they are.
Michael Streifler is
Streifler.
Double A.
See?
4.5 ERA.
Oh, he's crushing it. That's lower than what Tristan Beck had last year.
He was in Sacramento last year. Didn't do well.
Okay.
And then, so he's
Andy
gone from
doing?
AAA back to AA. Andy Thomas, as we keep the content rolling here on 95.7 The Game, he's in Richmond. Good little hitter, hitting 208. OPS is 645. So
remember, that is a pitcher's league, AA Richmond.
Thank you.
Even Matos was struggling there for a period of time.
Arizona Fall League, he had an OPS of 584.
Oh, that's exciting.
Not a pitcher's league.
No, not a pitcher's league.
And last year in, I want to say it's Norway, but that's the Northwestern League.
Yeah, I don't think he was in Norway.
844 for, he traded from Everett to Eugene. In high A.
Okay.
He was all right in high A. He's struggling in double A.
Okay, that's fine.
Farhan got served.
Yeah.
That's
perfect.
Yeah.
How about Luke Jackson? That was another one. They signed Luke Jackson. He's coming off of a big injury. Now he's a big part of the bullpen potentially for the second half of the season. So, a lot. Alex Cobb was a guy who they got at a good rate because he was coming off of injury. Like, this is something that they do. They target these guys.
I get it, and I don't think it's a terrible strategy. I'm just saying if you're going to trade for a guy in late June to beat the market, it kind of defeats the purpose if he can't pitch until late July anyway.
I don't know.
If he can even pitch in late July.
I don't know. Or maybe the reverse happens, right? Maybe, the price goes up if he comes out and throws 7 shutout innings for the Tigers on July 20th. And maybe the Tigers want to hold on to him for that point. But this is more not even about that specific pitcher. It's more about the concept. Do it now because whether this is going to bite you at some point because people will wear out or just the fact that, hey, the last 3 weeks have afforded you now like you're one of the big boys in the National League. So start fortifying the group now because it feels like they need help now. They've got the same opener throwing tonight who threw Monday night. That tells me they don't have a rotation.
Right.
They've got no rotation.
Well, we talked about it earlier, and I think it's a 2.5-man rotation basically at this point, and that's not sustainable. And, you heard Laura Britt and Richie Aurelia with the morning roast today saying the same thing in terms of sustainability. And you and I mentioned it yesterday, 13 straight in 13 days coming out of the break in 5 different cities. That will tax you, especially if you get into some bullpen type of games where these guys are all going to have to throw. It's going to be a lot of Farhan shuffling of guys up and down just to keep fresh arms in the room.
No doubt. And speaking of which, Grant Brisbee, The Athletic, if you missed any portion of the conversation, download the Odyssey app, subscribe to Willard and Dibs. You can go ahead and hear the interview in full for Giants content. But one of the things he talked about was Gabe Kapler managing this pitching staff and the bullpen.
What that's doing is it's taking so much pressure off of the Rogers twins. It's taking pressure off of John Brebbia when he's healthy, Scott Alexander when he's healthy. Right now you've got Ryan Walker and Luke Jackson. I mean, Luke Jackson, it's risky to rely on a high-leverage reliever who's coming off Tommy John surgery, but he's in a really sweet spot. He is not getting grounded to a fine powder. I mean, you think back to the days of Jim Brower, and you think back to get Doug Henry up for the 37th time in a row. That's not happening now. It's been kind of remarkable. And even when it was 2021 and the Giants had all these good arms and they were doing a lot of good things, they still had that problem when they were grinding some of their pitchers into dust. I don't see that happening now, and I think Kapler deserves a lot of credit for that.
Well, I tell you what. So what are we? 74 games in? Is that right? 74 games in?
Feels about right.
Have you heard one
73 in, I think.
Have you heard, you're right, 41 and 32. 73 games in.
Yep.
Have you heard a Kapler complaint yet? Have we gotten one call this whole season complaining about Gabe Kapler?
I'd have to go back and look, but I don't recall that many.
What's the game that he supposedly blew? Bob Melvin in San Diego, I can promise you this, has had 2 in the last 48 hours.
Right.
What's the game this year where people were like, freaking Kapler?
The opener.
The opener?
When he didn't throw at Aaron Judge.
Oh.
Such a candy soft move. And you got shut out.
I've reached a point where I'm able to have this conversation with you and just laugh it off.
Good. Laugh it up.
It took me weeks.
If you wind up a game out of where you want to be, then you talk to me, Captain Save a Cap.
I will. I don't think hitting Aaron
Here you
Judge.
go, Aaron. Have a cookie. You want 91 on the inner half? Here you go, big fella.
I love that you make it sound like their choices were to either hit him or let him hit a home run.
Light him up.
Well, how about get him out?
You can't do it.
Anyway, you can. He doesn't get a hit every time. I wanted to get him out.
Can't do it.
Yeah, they didn't get him out.
Couldn't do it. What? I think he went 5 for 5 that game. 2 for 4.
2 for 4. See, they got him out twice.
Attaboy.
Twice they got him out.
Logie.
Yeah.
Here you go, AJ.
Logie was struggling a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
At the beginning of the year. But, has there been a Kapler complaint?
I don't think so.
And it's just interesting. I get it. We got to the beginning of the year, and it was very much like, okay, Farhan can't get a free agent. You're mad about Carlos Correa. And this Kapler dude with his beard and his cooking on Instagram, and good Lord, it's nauseating. And I think we understand, right? If they go on a 6-game losing streak, Kapler goes right back to being annoying again. It's quirky when they win. It's annoying when they lose. I think he gets it. He's one of those polarizing personalities, and so that's fine. But here we are. Here we are at 41-32 and the second best record in the National League. And the complaints that we've heard for the better part of, 12 months have gone totally silent. Anyone got any complaints? What could you even say right now? What could you say? We asked this yesterday. One person called in and goes, well, I still don't know if Farhan can sign the big ticket.
Right.
Okay, that's fair.
And that is fair, but right now you're 9 games above. You've won 9 straight, and you've been scalding. And really, it's been more than just since they were 6 games below 500. They were 5-11 at one point this year, and I think that's when Kapler was getting his most criticism, and it wasn't any specific thing. I'm looking at the game log right now, and you had that 2-game series in Detroit. It should have been 3, but you had that funky rain out.
Yep.
You got walked off in consecutive 11th innings by the Detroit flippin' Tigers. And I think at that point, that's when Giants fans were probably at their angriest. Then you went to Miami and you lost the first 2. You were a little jet lagged because you had a non-game in Detroit. You had to go right to Miami. And Miami's better than people think. And I am a believer in Miami in terms of a long-term this year, being a playoff type of team. I think they're underrated. But you lost, that's 5 in a row. Mm-hmm. And you lost 8 of 10 in that stretch to fall to 5-11. At that point, there was maybe not specific criticism of Kapler, but there was rumblings. There was murmurs about, what do you do? Now, are these guys both going to be intertwined? Because if you fire Cap, do you get rid of Farhan and vice versa? There was some of that chatter after a bad start.
Absolutely. People were talking contracts. Do you want to know? I finally remembered it. Do you want to know which caller had the biggest Kapler complaint so far this year? It was when Alex Wood called us. Do you remember?
That's right.
He was mad about getting yanked out of the game the night before after 5 innings, and he was cruising. Now the Giants went on to win, but he admitted it. He's like, "Look, we won the game, but yeah, I thought I had every right to continue in that game." He was very open and honest with us, and that's what competitors will do. I dig that. I dig that he had the courage to go ahead and say that publicly, and it didn't turn into any sort of a thing with the Giants. Those decisions have to be made in the moment without knowing what's going to happen next, and that's difficult. So, yeah, that not every single one of them is going to feel good. I just
that was
noticed,
April 11th.
Okay, and where were they in the standings?
They were hosting the Dodgers. He went 4 2/3. He allowed 1 hit, and he allowed 3 walks. He had 5 punchies, and he got lifted. And the Giants would go on to win 5-0. He didn't get the win, and I know that wins.
Oh, that's what it was.
Wins aren't what they used to be.
That's what it was.
But he went 4 2/3, and he had a 1-hitter. And they went on to win the game. That was game 11. So I guess at that point the Giants would have been, I think, 5-5 or 5-6 at that point.
Was it that early in the year?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. April 11th.
It doesn't feel like it was that early. Yeah. Okay.
But that was a criticism going back to last year, where pitchers were a little bit cheesed at, his we feel as if you've thrown enough.
No, Logan has expressed this before.
Right.
Zach Littell is no longer on the team because of being pulled when he didn't want to be pulled. But by the way, I still look back on that experience as a moment when Giants fans can understand the backing that guys like Gabe Kapler and Farhan Zaidi have from the organization. there's always two conversations when someone is struggling, a coach or a manager or an executive. There's the what do the fans think of this person, and then what does the organization think of this person? And I've always thought over the last year or two that the organization thinks much higher of Gabe and Farhan than the fan base does.
For sure.
Right? Like, all you need to know in terms of what the organization thinks of what these guys are doing. Gabe Kapler goes to the mound. Zach Littell wheels his head around, gives him a whatever he gives him. Cap struts to the dugout, tells him, get your butt down in the tunnel right now. We need to talk. They go down the tunnel. We've never seen Gabe this animated. He lights into him in whatever way he does. That dude was DFA'd. He was sent to the minors and gone the next morning.
Yeah.
And he now plays for Tampa. That's the backing that Gabe has from the organization. That's all you needed to see.